I thought I was going to die.
Not possible. You were never alone. Please, Captain. Not while we have to record episode 321 of the Retro Rewind podcast.
Retro systems online. Reflux capacitor fluxing. Scanning movie space-time for Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, 1989. Rewinding in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, Rewinders and new listeners, to the Retro Rewind podcast, where we take a fresh look at movies and games from 15 or more years ago. I'm your captain of the pod, Francisco Ruiz, and I'm joined by your XO and mine, Paul, the science officer, PaulJPowers.com. Powers!
This is Captain PaulJPowers.com speaking. You are in violation of Neutral Zone Treaty. I advise you to release your hostages at once or suffer the consequences.
Wait, is that from this movie?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, of course it's from this movie.
We're reviewing. Let's find out.
Let's find. Yes. And so, in addition to Paul, of course, for the movie Star Trek V, which of course has Scotty getting prisoners.
It does have Scotty.
We also are glad to have for this discussion of the film our archives officer, Drew Dodgen. Hey, Drew.
Laddie, you don't have to worry about this movie. I know it like the back of my hand.
Okay, I guess you're Chekhov? I think that's, yeah.
No, that was actually Scotty.
No, I don't think so. I think that's Chekhov. And in addition to
What are you
Chekhov
standing around for? Don't you know a jailbreak when you see one?
/ Drew, we are glad to have aboard for the first time. He's a gamer, sci-fi geek, and bassist at his local church. Welcome, and the person who picked Star Trek 4 for us, reflux capacitor, Tim Strauss.
Star Trek 4? Is that the movie we're recording?
You know what? I'm wishfully thinking here.
Admiral, there be veils here.
That could have been brought to my attention yesterday.
Hold on while I go back. All right.
We're glad to have aboard Tim Strauss. Hey, Tim, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Francisco. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. So good.
I'm a doctor, not a film reviewer.
And now that you have a quick flyby of who we all are, Paul, can you give us a quick overview of the production specs for Star Trek V?
All right. Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home.
No, I misspoke before.
Just said it.
I know. That's why I said I misspoke. I'm sorry.
What? I didn't hear that.
Been brought to my attention
3 seconds ago. All right. Here we go. Star Wars Episode V, The Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
Directed by Irvin Kershner. With
Paul.
Yes.
Hey, now we just made both the Trekkies and the Star Wars nerds mad.
It's Star Trek 5, not Star Wars 5.
Oh. All right. Star Wars 5.
No, Star Trek 5.
That's what I meant.
Okay.
Good. All right. Star Trek V: The Final Frontier.
Yes.
That one?
Yes, that's the
All
one.
right. It was released June 9th, 1989. Runs an hour and 47 minutes and is rated PG. It was directed by William Shatner and written by Gene Roddenberry, William Shatner, and Harv Bennett, with lead stars being Bill Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, The Forest Called Kelly, and many more. And music was composed by Jerry Star Trek Goldsmith.
Indeed.
Are you ready for the box office trivia?
So I am ready. Drew and Tim, are you guys ready?
Sure. Indeed.
Awesome. Anyone in chat? Bobo, Neko, Killer, you guys are welcome to join in as well. Go for it, Paul.
All right. Star Trek V was made for about $30 million and earned over $70 million at the box office.
Well done, Star Trek.
Given this fact, how high in the box office do you think it ranks among the movies released theatrically in 1989? And we'll go for the top 50.
Oh, 89. That wasn't a very good year for movies, so this probably did very well.
Yeah.
Let's start with
Batman.
Let's start with
two.
Let's start with Tim. What's your guess?
Ooh, I'm gonna guess 12.
12. Okay. How about you, Drew?
25.
25.
Right in the middle.
And then let's see. I'm looking in chat. I don't see anyone guessing. Oh, Killer SCV's guesses 5. Sean also guesses 12. Neko guesses 12. And Ashley says, bad, it doesn't even get a number. Okay. Wow. For me, I'm
51. Gotcha.
Wow. I'm going to guess I'm going to guess 33. Oh, and Bobo guesses 16. So where did it actually end up, Paul?
So according to the-numbers.com, Star Trek V came in at 22.
22.
Drew won.
Drew. Well done,
Way to
Drew.
go, Drew.
Good job. And thank you for those factoids, Paul. And let's see if any of them factor into our memory mind meld or subsequent roundtable discussion, which we'll get into once Alice has located our target film.
Alert. Target located. Spoilers incoming. Establishing analysis vector.
A strange force has entered the galaxy. It could only mean one thing.
Greetings, Captain.
The vacation is over. Now the crew of the Enterprise
Enterprise, are you ready?
is taking you where no one has gone before.
You know we'll never make it through the Great Barrier.
Warp speed now.
Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Rated PG. Starts Friday, June 9th at theaters everywhere.
That's
Wow,
right.
that didn't tell you anything about that movie.
It's the final frontier, obviously. I mean, we know everything I think we need to know about that film. But you know what? That's neither here nor there. I'm curious what we remembered about Star Trek V. So let's find out in our memory mind meld synopsis for Star Trek V, as Paul likes to say, the final frontier.
Right. I didn't title it. They did. Don't blame me.
All right. So Paul, let's see if we can do this. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, merrily.
Row your boat.
Why did you? Thank you, Drew. Paul, why did you give up?
Because you were going to read the rest of the...
No. I think we're just going to do
sorry.
this.
I thought we were doing the memory mind meld. I didn't realize we were doing the...
No, but row your boat gently down Yosemite Stream. A laughing Vulcan thinks he's the Lord. Turns out he's both a lunatic and a liar. While Kirk falls off a mountain and is saved by Spock. Uhura's fan dances and Klingons attack out of nowhere during the Nimbus 3 rescue. What does God need with a starship? So Captain Kirk saves the universe from not God. Merrily, life is but a dream. Wow. That was quite the memories. And as much as I wish it had gone into C.S. Lewis quotes, it did not. So apparently our memories were decepted. But based on those memories, as flawed as they were, what range did they lead you to predict for this film before you rewatched it? Classic, nostalgic, or tragic? Let's start with Drew. What was your prediction for Star Trek V?
I predicted tragic.
Okay, and tragic. And when did you first see this? And I'll ask all of you, when did you first see this film?
There's a question. Mid-90s?
Mid-90s, okay.
It was a VHS that I rented.
Okay.
I own like 5 different versions of this film, by the way.
Oh, you must love it. So I'm surprised by that tragic.
I just
Wait, how many versions are there?
I say
which
5.
one did I see?
VHS, DVD, Blu-ray.
I actually have 2 Blu-rays for some reason, so I have 4.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant there's like a director's cut, a studio's cut, a Vulcan.
The Nimbus 3 Klingon attack cut.
Exactly.
The Almighty cut.
Oh my gosh. Tim, what was your prediction and when did you first see this film?
My prediction, I actually went with nostalgia.
Nostalgic, okay.
It was probably about the mid-90s or so on TV.
Okay, nice. Paul, how about you?
Didn't get a chance to see it in theaters when it first came out, so I watched it shortly thereafter, probably a couple years after. And I remember enjoying it. Not as much as the other movies, but I didn't think it was all that bad. But for some reason, I haven't seen it in like 30 years. And over that time, a lot of people have poured a lot of hate and visceral towards this movie. And it kind of influenced what I predicted of being tragic.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I only ever remember seeing like and not when it was released in theaters, as is Thanksgiving, with friends of my mom's. We went over to their place for Thanksgiving. I remember we just ate, and this came on like TNT or TBS or one of those stations. I remember having it on and falling asleep like 10 minutes into the movie. So I haven't really seen this film ever for real. And I had no desire to see it. Much like Paul, I've always heard the odd numbered Star Treks are the worst ones. So I just went with the wisdom of the crowd, and I predicted tragic as well.
Oh my.
So it'll be interesting to see if those predictions come true. But first, let's go get started into the things we liked most about Star Trek V. I'll get us going here.
Best bits.
All right. And let's begin, as we like to, with our guests. And I'm going to start with Tim. What's something you liked about Star Trek V?
Well, something I liked about Star Trek V, and maybe it kind of seems maybe counterintuitive, but I like that it starts off with the Enterprise. You know, they're going through, I guess, like a refit of the ship. Everything isn't working right.
Yes, yeah.
And that's one thing I've noticed throughout my time watching Star Trek is anytime the ship doesn't work right, they've got to have some sort of creative way to come through and solve the problem instead of just like, oh, we're going to use a transporter or we're going to do this. So it's like it forces creativity upon the plot.
That's really good. I really like that. And I mean, speaking of creativity, I was actually, this is something that made my like list. I was floored by the beauty of this poster of Star Trek V, which I found out.
Faces? Which poster? I've seen a few.
Oh, so this is the one that we actually have. I'll switch to the all cameras here. The one that has, the two faces and everything forms a V. Like it's very intentional, like 5V. I really,
you know what? I never noticed that. I was like, why didn't they use the Vulcan "Live Long and Prosper" as the V? But now I see the composition of the poster.
Exactly. So, and I really like the color. I think it's really rich. I think the mystery of those raiders at the bottom is an interesting contrast with the futuristic starship. So I really like the story that the poster is telling. So that was my first like. What? Why are you laughing?
I really like the poster. Really well.
What did you like about the movie? Not the movie itself, but the marketing.
It's kind of like if they had stopped with the story of the poster this way.
I'm not saying one way or the other about any of that. Let's go with Drew next. What's something you liked? Was it the creativity of the marketing or something else?
I'm kind of combining two things into one. I'm calling it the little things.
Oh, okay.
Because there are some little things they do in here that I think
missed the tribbles. Where were they?
Wow.
No, not those little things.
That would have been nice. No, but example of what I'm talking about is there's a scene at the very beginning of the movie where they're coming up on the Enterprise, and it's situated right in front of the moon. Is an absolutely gorgeous shot of the Enterprise. Okay. I kind of wish it was in a better movie.
So,
stop showing your cards, Drew.
When I saw that, it is so blue, at least in the copy I have. I don't know if this is the Klingon copy or whatever. It was so blue, I thought it was a weird version of the Earth or some other planet.
Wait,
I didn't realize it was the moon.
Wait, I thought it was the Earth too. That was the moon?
So
that was the moon. I don't know how y'all are getting the Earth out of that.
Because it was so blue.
Yeah.
It was not that blue.
And why was it so big?
What crappy VHS rip did y'all watch?
I watched the Paramount Plus version, whatever was on there.
So, and I listened.
I didn't see no blue moon.
I actually listened to the
and it wasn't over
commentary.
Kentucky either.
I actually listened to two commentaries, and one of them actually told me, "Oh no, wait, I love the reflection of the moon here." I'm like, "Oh, that's the moon." So,
well, yeah. I took it as the moon, and I think it's absolutely gorgeous.
Okay,
yeah,
that's only half of this like.
They agree with you, by the way. Go ahead.
The other thing is, and I'm going to geek out as a Trekkie for just a moment, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
No,
there is a scene
about as a Trekkie for the whole episode, but go ahead.
You know what I mean. About right as they're getting ready to get into the barrier, it has that scene where Kirk is watching them come up on it, and he looks down on that plates in that observation deck that says "Where no man has gone before."
On the rudder, thing
on the ship steering wheel.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So here's a fun little interesting fact: this is not the first time the Enterprise has come up against that barrier.
Oh,
not that particular barrier, but a barrier like it, because in the second pilot episode of the original series, also called "Where No Man Has Gone Before," they went through the barrier at the edge of the galaxy.
Oh, interesting.
And created a false god that they had to fight off. So it all is in circles.
Cool.
Gary Mitchell, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Gary Mitchell.
Which I think would have been is probably my favorite fan theory of if any of the godlike creatures that the original series ran into would have went off and became this quote unquote god in the center. My favorite fan theory is that it was him that went off with that girl that he went off with, that they explored.
She somehow reverted back at the end.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, it's been a while since I've seen that. But yeah, that Gary Mitchell was actually that turns out to be God in the middle. They should have revealed that. That would have been amazing.
Admittedly, I did just rewatch the episode last year, so I'm currently working through all of Star Trek right now, and I'm in the middle of Next Generation. So
nice.
Yeah,
but actually, that was my first was the plaque there on the steering wheel.
And you guys are giving me guff about my poster.
This was actually in the movie.
All right, that's fair.
In the movie, and it relates not just to this movie, but to the franchise as a whole.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Hey, because Bob Peak
is going where no man has gone before.
Bob Peck made the Star Trek the motion picture poster also. So hey, he's part of the series. Yeah, that's right. I'll take your silence as acceptance of my good like. Okay, continue, Paul.
No, I said it. It was also my first like.
Oh, it was just the plaque? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was great.
All right. That's cool. Let's go back to Tim. What's something else you liked?
And sorry.
Well, you are the master interrupter, and you haven't been showing your mastery very
I know,
recently,
that was very rude to our guest. But you asked me to add something. I forgot. I did want to add something. I thought it was cool, the fact that they were going to the center of the galaxy where actually no man had gone before, which is actually hard to do in the Star Trek universe, where all the places they've been.
Yeah.
So the fact that they were able to do that and reference that, I thought was a great tie-in.
Okay, cool. Okay, now back to Tim. What's something else you liked?
Oh, let's see. I guess I like the kind of one of the themes of like the importance of family.
Oh, interesting. Like, where did that come out for? Where did that come out for you? I mean, I can think of.
Of course, you could obviously look at the, and of course, obviously spoiler territory.
Yes.
Between full spoilers,
Cybot and Spot.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Now here we go. Half brothers. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really more like the fact that the Enterprise crew, is a family.
Yes.
And it's kind of like as Kurt points out at the end. It's like where he says, "Oh no, I had my family." It's like, what family? You said you didn't have time for family. It's like no. It's not out there. It's here. It's you. You're my family. It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
So
that is good.
When he said, "I've also lost a brother," and I know a lot of non-Star Trek fans think, or they might remember Spock dying and referring him to him. But to me, I thought Sam Kirk. Did he know?
That's exactly where I went to.
Yeah.
I don't know who
he didn't get him back.
Exactly. He lost a brother.
But
Really?
at the point where he said, "I lost a brother," and before he paused before he said, "But I got him back."
Yeah.
And everyone's thinking, "Oh, he's talking about Sam."
But he did get him back because they brought him back in Strange New Worlds.
I thought they were talking about Spock this whole time.
No, but they brought it back to the airways.
Oh well, yeah.
If we're going to go into that,
I guess that's a reach,
Spock
but I
and
guess
Cyborg talk about their adopted human sister.
yeah. Where is that conversation?
Okay. All you Trekkies, help me out here because I don't know these things.
I don't know if we can.
Wow. Do your best. So James T. Kirk actually does have a biological brother. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And his name is Sam Kirk. But he died or he didn't die?
Yes.
No, he
died to a bunch of space jellyfish.
That was back during season 1 of the original series.
Yes.
Hey, Francisco, guess who played his brother?
Himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
With a beard.
Oh, my word. Okay. So he has an actual brother. And so I guess if you don't know that, like I assumed he was talking about Spock because Spock dies and comes back.
Going audience would assume that as well.
And in reality, he is talking about Spock.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Which is confirmed when he says, "But I got him back."
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you're talking about Spock.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm surprised.
Sam, Sam's just been dead for 20 years. We're just going to forget you ever had a
way
brother.
to dance on his grave.
I feel like even more important than that is his son dying. And so I feel like I'm surprised that didn't come up, but...
No, that's next episode.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I never forgive them what they did to my boy.
No, he died in 3, I thought.
Yeah, but they referenced that in number 6.
At the Klingons in 6 for the death of his boy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have we even covered 6? I'm not sure.
Yes.
I think we had some guy on it from an animation podcast, I think. I don't know. Yeah. Yes, I know
that's
Drew.
the guy with Tron in it, but he's a Klingon. Wait, that's this one, but he's not a Klingon.
He's not a Klingon.
Yeah, but he's a human.
Wait, Barry Boxleitner is in...
Oh, are we talking about David Warner?
Yeah,
David Warner.
Oh.
Yeah. That's why he's talking with the Klingon at the beginning. We don't see that he's negotiating like the transfer of his cells to conform to the Klingons.
Wait, right? David Warner's also in 6?
Yes.
He's the Chancellor of the Klingon High Council.
Chancellor Gorkon.
Wait, is he a Klingon in that?
Yes. And you wonder why Kirk doesn't say, "Hey, what happened?"
Okay.
Oh no, he is.
And how'd you get a Klingon daughter so fast?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for bringing me up to speed on all of that. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that was Tim's, I believe, right?
Yes.
Which now I'm so lost in the weeds, I forget what your actual was. Tim, can you remind me of it real quick?
My likes were the fact that
family.
The ship was broken and they had to be created.
Yep.
And that the importance of family.
Family. Okay.
Right.
Thank
you.
you.
This is the Fast and Furious in space. It's all about family.
Gotcha. Speaking of family, I often think of Paul as a brother from another mother. Paul, what's one thing you liked about this film?
I was actually impressed with the guy that they got to play Cybok, Lawrence Luckinbill.
Yeah.
I thought he did a good job of carrying the movie.
No Sean Connery, but yeah.
Huh?
I said no Sean Connery, who they were originally going to have.
Yeah, they originally wanted Sean Connery, which I found in the commentary, which would have been cool,
Mm-hmm.
Show me your pain. The line must be drawn here.
Which is why they named the planet Shakari.
Oh, yeah. Sean Connery, yes.
Sean Connery.
But despite them not being able to get Sean Connery because he was too busy filming the number 1 movie of the year, which was Last Crusade.
Yeah.
I thought Lawrence Luckinbill did a great job of carrying, especially for a no-name, to carry the film as well as he did.
Yeah,
and the attention.
Well, I mean, he'd been on TV a bit by that point,
but he's not going to sell tickets like Connery would.
Not like Sean Connery would.
Fair.
Yeah. He's not putting butts in seats. Let's just be honest.
Not so much.
Right.
But
I agree with Paul. I think he did a really good job.
Yeah.
What he had to work with.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. He felt very committed. He played it very earnestly, I'll say.
Yeah.
Not super related to that, but more to the Sean Connery aspect, I guess. is my next like, and that's I actually liked the lore or the mystery they set up of Shakari. I thought that was a cool thing. I forget though, is Shakari the planet or is it the god? Or it's the Eden thing, right? It's the planet. Okay, it's the planet. Okay.
It's the area where life began.
That's right.
Because it's supposed to be like Eden and human, quote unquote,
which doesn't make sense because Eden was on Earth.
Yeah, exactly. But
oh wait, we're not to our dislikes yet. Sorry,
we're not to our spiritual speculation yet. But I thought that was a cool bit of lore that we find out about the different cultures in the Star Trek universe. So I enjoyed that, having that element to sort of chew on and think about. But that leaves Drew before we get to our classic makers. So Drew, what's one more thing you liked?
Believe it or not, I really do like the music in this because I am a fan of Jerry Goldsmith, and I'm much more of a fan of the motion picture soundtrack than this one. But this uses so many of the musical cues from the motion picture. I really appreciate, especially with the Klingon battle. Anytime the Klingons do something, and my favorite moment of that is when they're all staring at the planet Shakari. And the camera zooming past all of them, heading towards that one computer monitor at the very back. It shows the Klingons have made it barrier too, and you can just hear barely a few notes of the Klingon battle theme kind of play through there while it's going this big.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I doubt that's the Klingon,
Francisco, because that's the cut I saw.
I guess I missed that, Paul.
I agree with Drew. I did enjoy the music for the most part. My favorite actually cue was they took at what point I think they revealed what the space station or something, but they slowed down the main theme like this. I thought it was grand and glorious.
Oh, okay.
That you normally don't hear.
Gotcha. For whatever reason, so if we're just talking about Star Trek soundtracks, I just much prefer the updated 2009 version. Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, you're a fan of Giacchino. Moving on.
Yes.
Okay. No, that is a good one.
I'm just saying, I really like it. I prefer that.
I'm giving you a hard time because I didn't get to be on that episode.
Fair enough.
I did think that version I think that theme did fit that particular movie with the energy and everything that went with it. So.
Yeah.
But you bring up a good point. What's everyone's favorite, best Star Trek theme of all time? Because the TNG, that's probably my favorite.
Okay.
Well, that's just the motion picture.
I was about to say, which is the motion picture. Yeah, so.
Wait, the Next Generation theme is the motion picture theme?
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome to the Star Trek universe.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, pretty much it is.
It's slightly different, but it's close enough.
Oh, okay, okay.
If we're talking movies, pretty much anything in the motion picture, I think is a great soundtrack. If we were reviewing that one, that would be the soundtrack is my classic maker.
Oh wow!
But what's your theme? Is that your favorite theme?
The Enterprise, which is basically the Star Trek, the main theme
of the show Enterprise or this.
So TV show wise,
I'm talking about all Star Trek lore.
Honestly, Deep Space Nine's theme.
Okay.
Ooh, that's
cool.
That's a good.
Okay. I like Voyager's theme, but
don't get me wrong. I like Enterprise's theme because I can sing along with it. But
no. It actually has words. Yeah.
Good 90s cheese.
How about you, Tim?
Well, of course, probably just because it's the one I grew up with initially would be the Next Generation theme. But I do have to agree with Drew. Deep Space Nine is a very close second.
Okay, nice. And what would you say, Paul?
Yeah, TNG for me. TNG. But my second is the 2009
soundtrack
main theme.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's sing our way.
Also, I will say Strange New Worlds theme is good too. But that's just to get a modern bent in there.
Speaking of music, let's sing our way into the classic makers of Star Trek 5, The Final Frontier. Drew.
Take my love, take my land, take me where I cannot stay.
Why are you twisting the dagger, Paul?
Wrong space show.
Yeah, much better space show. Drew, what was your classic maker?
My classic maker, is the campfire scenes.
Mm.
Really?
And I'll tell you why. It's because throughout most of Star Trek, it's, especially the original series, it is about Kirk and Spock and McCoy. It's that friendship and that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But we never really get to see them kind of laid back and just just talking and being friends.
Yeah.
Until this movie.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that both at the beginning and the end. I mean, yeah, everyone makes fun of the row your boat, but I just find that heartwarming.
Yeah,
and
I do too.
The whole thing with Spock mispronouncing the word marshmallow.
Yeah, marshmallow.
Which is a joke that went nowhere, but I still find that funny.
Yeah.
But
so the people, they said it's actually in the novelization.
Yeah.
There's a joke behind it.
Somebody, when Spock went to go look up what to do at a campfire, someone had hacked his system to replace all the words of marshmallow with marshmallow.
Oh, okay.
As a prank.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too funny. And Spock wouldn't have a clue. He's just
right.
Like,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which,
is a marshmallow.
By the way, that marshmallow container that Spock had,
I want one.
Get that at the time.
Well, isn't that just like a portable replicator or something?
Probably, but you could get a buy a marshmallow dispenser from one of whoever the Star Trek was partnering with.
It was Kraft at the time. Yeah.
Oh, you mean you could actually buy that in real life? That thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was just a dispenser and it could hold maybe about 6. So why on earth?
No, I need one that actually makes the marshmallows from atoms.
No, that doesn't make marshmallows. It makes marshmallow.
Fine, make me some marshmallows from atoms.
Some marshmallows. Come on. They're good enough for Spock. They're good enough for me.
Yeah.
Tim, what was your classic maker for Star Trek 5: The Final Frontier?
And I guess, this could be one of the that's kind
and
of an
feel
obvious
free
thing.
to say Drew is wrong with his classic maker. That's fine. Don't worry about stepping on his toes. It's okay.
It's very subjective, so we're gonna. But and I have to say the interaction with God.
Oh, okay.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And not just because of the what does God need with the Starship, but it's just kind of there's some more stuff into it.
Yeah,
you can really dig into, and it's like, ooh,
yeah,
okay, I like this.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think I did see there was a Shatner actually wanted a version where part of the final chase scene where he's running from God is he wanted a rock monster.
Yeah,
to fight a rock monster on his.
Yeah, so that came out. Actually, there's actually a story behind that. The original script, it was supposed to be Satan, and the studio executives were like, "Yeah, we're not doing that." And then they said, "Well, how about it's someone who's not God but pretending to be? That's an alien." They're like, "Okay, we're fine with that.
We can do that."
We're so as this not God, as they're running away from not God. These creatures were supposed to come out of the rocks, and they were supposed to be like gargoyles and all these kinds of creatures made from rocks, and they were supposed to run in and attack them. And Shatner wanted like 20, and the studio said, "Well, we'll give you 10." And then later, like, "Well, bad news, we'll give you 5." And later, "Bad news, we'll give you 1." And they filmed the 1, and it was so bad. You can actually see the footage on some of the behind the scenes.
I think I've seen that footage. Now that I think of it,
it's on the same par, just above Power Ranger villain. Like,
wow.
If you can imagine.
Okay, yeah.
It's a little bit more than that. It has some. It looks pretty cool, but they said the test footage with it together just didn't look right. So
yeah.
But I wanted someone to throw rocks at me because I felt it would be more dramatic.
So,
exactly.
Drew, do you know if the one in Galaxy Quest they did that as an homage?
I don't know, but I could so see them doing that.
Yeah,
right. That would be hilarious if they did.
I mean, I guess it's a missed opportunity then, or kind of good that Sean Connery wasn't in this, because then I'd want him to say, "Welcome to the Rock."
Even though that movie didn't exist yet.
I don't care. In my universe, it does.
In that case, he should have been played by Vin Diesel, so he could say, "Do you smell what the Rock is cooking?"
I think you mean Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, Dwayne Johnson.
But hey, it's all about
Diesel.
Can you smell what the family's cooking?
It's really pitch black in here. Okay, so that was yours, Tim, and I'm actually going to go right into that because that idea that Kirk posits, like, what does God need with a starship, I think is a very poignant question that I think some people may not sort of reflect on and think about. And I think that is, I liked seeing those sort of theological questions being asked in a movie. So I was like, I was taken aback with joy at that line. I'm like, oh wow, okay, cool, you're going there. That's fantastic. So that's my classic maker. Is just that line.
And it's really interesting when you look at Kirk. Kirk's never been one to ever express like a belief in a higher power or anything like that. He's always been, very self-reliant, or I'm going to rely on my crew. They're going to be the ones that's going to get me out of trouble. Yeah. And yet for Kirk to be the one going, what does God need with a starship?
It's more of a philosophical question, which is great. But I guess I can see what you're saying, Tim, is that he doesn't seem like the philosophy type. But I guess there's different aspects to people that we just don't know. That leaves Paul, though. What is your classic maker for Star Trek V, The Final Frontier?
Well, as you mentioned before about disagreeing with Drew being with the classic maker being the campfire scene, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to agree with Drew because for me, it's by far the most memorable scenes. That's the one thing that I remembered most after 30 years of watching it and really enjoying. And, it's great to see these characters that I've loved watching and in another film. So, and having them in that environment, I thought was great. So,
all right. I mean,
and keep in mind, this was the last film the entire cast was on the same ship at the same time.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's fair. And we'll get to that in a bit. But I will say, I'm not opposed to them having this campfire scene as much as I'm giving Drew a hard time. And now Paul, apparently. There's just one element that I'll bring up in a bit that I am quite...
hey, that owl was cool.
The owl was fine. That's not what I'm talking about at all. But you know what, guys? We can't just talk about likes forever and a day. Even though there might be one or two more for this movie. You know what? You know what, guys?
You forgot something, didn't you?
No, just we're sharing the things we liked, and I wanted to share something else I liked with everyone, and that would be the Cellcast. The Cellcast, hosted by Jacob and Drew, review animated movies and TV shows, discussing what they appreciate about the medium in whatever form it takes. Whether it is a traditional hand-drawn animated movie, claymation shorts, or a 3D CGI series, or maybe a rock monster, check out some animated reviews when you subscribe to the Cellcast at thecellcast.podbean.com. And don't forget, the Cell is spelled with a C and a single L. At thecellcast.podbean.com.
And I swear we'll finish reviewing Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 eventually. I've been behind on editing.
Understandable. And Francisco, much like what does God need with the starship, what does the Cellcast do with Star Trek 5?
Oh, sorry, I forgot. We were talking about Star Trek 5. I was just like, I was overcome with wanting to share something that I liked that had nothing to do with this 2-rate second class movie.
Wow, there's a throwback to maybe 3 people.
Yeah, exactly.
2 of them are on this show.
Wow.
At least.
But no, that's there. You know what, Paul? There's nothing related to this other than Drew and Jacob are covering Lower Decks Star Trek on their show.
And eventually we are planning on covering the animated series.
That was my next question.
Which, you know what? I saw an episode of that. I'm like, wow, this is actually
it's a lot better
great.
Than you think. It's not to say there's not some goofiness in there, but because it is a 70s Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, but it's so cool. That's the actual cast that voices all the characters. I was like,
most of them.
All of them. Let me live in my delusion.
Chekhov is not in that show.
Sadness.
No. Well, he's not in Star Trek, the original series when Khan takes over anyway. But
Yeah.
He did write and direct an episode of the animated series, though.
Wait,
Oh, cool.
I thought he was with Khan. He got the ear thing in his ear.
No, in the original series.
In the original
yeah.
He was not there.
Gotcha. I see where
But
you're
even though he recognizes him. But anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know what? Not everyone would know that trivia about Chekhov. Speaking of trivia, how about some trivia about Star Trek V, guys?
Star Trek V? Yes.
Yes. Did you all realize this is the final film voyage of the complete original crew? That's like what Drew was just alluding to, of the USS Enterprise. Although there would be one more film, Star Trek VI, Undiscovered Country, featuring the original cast, Sulu is no longer a member of the Enterprise. He's captain of the USS Excelsior in that film. So with that in mind, my question to you all is, which original series character, Star Trek original series, would you like to see adventures about while they're captaining their own ship, their own starship? So let's begin with Paul.
I just immediately go to Chekhov because he's the comedy relief in that. So I think it would be fun to see more of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Attention, Klingon vessel.
How about you, Tim?
Well, kind of because I actually know that in canon it has actually happened.
Oh.
Uhura.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Because, in fact, part of the lore from Picard season 2 was when they're in Starfleet Academy, there's a ship called the USS Leondegrance, which is an homage to one of Patrick Stewart's characters from the movie Excalibur.
Oh, cool.
Captain of the USS Leondegrance was Captain Nyota Uhura.
Oh.
And it was used as a training ship in which a lot of your cadets, including a cadet Picard, took their first warp jump.
Oh, cool.
That's cool. I'd like to see that. In fact, hey, Chekhov.
Bring up the video.
All right, there. Let's watch it.
How about you, Drew?
I'm going to have to go with Bones because I just like the idea.
A cranky old Starship captain.
Cussing out some Klingons who are attacking some poor colony full of tribbles or something.
That's fun.
I'm a captain, not a doctor.
I told him I was wrong for this job. They tried to retire. They bring me back, put me in command of a starship. Dang it, Jim, why didn't you tell me this was like this?
My word. I wish DeForest Kelley had lived long enough for him and Carl Urban to do some sort of new, Kelvin universe, original series universe with them two as Bones, because I like them both so much as Bones. But yeah, and there's your trivia, guys.
Great trivia, Francisco.
Thank you, Paul.
And now that we've all had some trivial fun, let's find out what memories you, our rad rewinders, had about Star Trek V.
Or 5. Benjamin T. Van Dypen says, I recognize it's not what it should have been, but I have a soft spot for 5, or V, he says. And I'll watch it over the drag that is Star Trek 1 any day. Nice.
I may have an opinion later.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you have one before. But anyway, David Bobby says.
But now,
Bobo says, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you have to watch this. I'll spare you my memories so you can jump to the worst woes portion of the show, because I just know that's going to last at least 45 minutes.
Wow.
Let's go ahead and talk about this now. We have luckily Tim on, who actually picked this episode. Why did you pick this episode? Just out of curiosity.
Well, honestly, I kind of felt it was kind of an underserved Star Trek film.
Okay, well, we're serving it. I don't know what we're serving yet, but we're going to serve it.
I may have should have said, let me pick something else here.
So was this something that you like, just out of curiosity, was this something that you liked and you thought, oh, this would be fun? Or this is something like, oh, this is something that I hate and I want these guys to stir in the or is it just like you said, it's just it's not often actually discussed in depth?
Well, I mean, what I recalled of it was that I kind of liked it.
Okay.
And two, it's kind of a combination of the kind of liking it, and also kind of thinking, well, no one really talks about it that much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean,
everyone always focuses on the ones around it, 4 and 6, and it's just like, which for good reason. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I think eventually we'll probably hit all of the first 6 movies. So, I mean, we had to get this here eventually. So thank you.
You only got 2 left.
3 and 1. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Which I like 3. I don't know why people are mean to 3.
TNG movies.
What was it?
Then there's 4 TNG movies.
Yeah, we're not getting there right now. Drew Dodgen. Oh,
who's that?
Speaking of, you ever watch a movie for our RIP review and realize about 10 minutes into it that, holy crap, Francisco is probably going to like this? I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I will.
We all know Francisco doesn't like movies.
What?
Okay. Admittedly, when I left that, I was about 10 minutes in, and my first thought was, oh, this actually does kind of seem like something Francisco would like.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. Because Kevin Joshua Burnham says he remembers enough to know that it really was not the final frontier.
Indeed.
But
Nathan James Norman says, Cat Lady attacking Kirk, Uhura's fan dance eye roll, or fan dance, and then he gives an eye roll. Why does God need a starship? But the scene where Kirk tells Bones we need our pain is worth all the cringe in the film. Ooh, that's good.
That was good. I liked that part.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was almost my classic maker right there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. Jeremy Shields says, I saw it in Lebanon, Missouri.
Oh, okay.
With cousins on vacation. They were so excited for it to finally come out to the one theater they had in town where movies came after they had completed their initial run in the city.
Oh, okay.
Months after, usually.
Oh, wow.
So I enjoyed it back then, but as a critically thinking adult, I'm afraid to watch it again.
And
we watched it so you didn't have to.
There you go.
Well, we don't know that. We may all rate it classic and say people have to watch it. So Wardale White, though, ends by saying it's better than the original motion picture, but still the weakest of the 5 sequels. Well, maybe there's good reason for that, and we'll get into discussing that as we talk about our dislikes. Alice, boot that up for us.
Worst woes.
All right, let's begin. I'm going to start with Paul this time. What's one thing you disliked about Star Trek V?
All right, Star Trek V. And as people of the 80s know, and a little bit later, that V was a series where aliens came down and invaded Earth secretly, and I was
thinking that.
So hoping, Star Trek, and they have V, and how they're gonna.
It's like a crossover. Oh, that's cool.
It was a great combination story idea, but is there V? No, 1 star. No, that's not my dislike, but I just threw that in there for fun. They did some kind of hokey things that just don't make sense. Like if you listen.
Oh, yes. Like Row, Row, Row Your Boat is your favorite campfire song? Really, Kirk? Really? There's tons of maybe some old cowboy like harmonicas or something. No, Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Right? Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Really?
Camptown Races is harder to learn.
I don't care. It's at least a bit more interesting.
Moons over Rigel 7. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, there's no like futuristic campfire songs. Maybe we can all learn a new one. No, we go with Row, Row, Row Your Boat.
Yeah, like Moons over Rigel 7.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So,
what else doesn't make sense? When Klingons shoot an old Earth satellite, it screams like. and then when the not God person zaps Kirk, you get a reaction from everyone on the ship going, whoa, like they can see what's going on.
Yeah.
There's a good reason the satellite screamed. It's a relative of V'ger.
Right.
A V'ger? Who's V'ger?
Yes. Well, Francisco, you haven't seen 1 yet, so you have to go back and watch that.
Okay,
and then re-listen to Drew's joke and laugh for 5
Okay.
Please, I didn't even get that here from the people who know what I was talking about.
Right.
Me laugh? I thought I hated movies.
Worth it. Just for that joke alone, it's worth it.
I did think that when I saw the little panel on the side.
Right.
I was like, oh, what if that's one of the Voyager satellites?
Yeah.
Like, V'ger's crying right now.
Oh, my word.
So anyway, There were things that didn't make sense to me that I thought didn't make the movie all that much better for, and those are just a few examples.
Okay. And I mean, I went right into mine with the row boat. That's really just like, I could not believe that Kirk is seriously saying that was his favorite. So we'll just go. That was my first dislike.
Well, it's got to be somebody's favorite.
If you're two, Tim, what's something you didn't like about this film?
Okay, so at the point where the Enterprise gets it's kind of like a logic question.
Oh, okay.
So or at least a logic issue within the story. This is like, so when the Enterprise gets assigned to go do the rescue mission at Nimbus 3,
yeah,
and and Kirk's like, do you not see the condition that the Enterprise is in right now? And the guy's like, are there any other ships that are closer? He's like, well, we got these commanders out there, but ain't none of them got no experience. I'm thinking, wait. You're Starfleet.
This is how they get experience.
They're like, hey, how did they get to become commanders of a starship?
Without experience.
I mean,
like,
what if
that's the whole point?
Yeah.
Kirk went through so much of this in the original show? What if somebody had thought, that's not, Pike or whatever? How would Kirk get this experience?
Yeah.
Right.
Fair point.
That's a good point.
Yeah. No, that's
well,
that's
Pike was in a wheelchair, so what do I know?
Yeah.
Drew, were there any sort of logical inconsistencies that made your first dislike, or
yes.
was it something else? Oh, okay, go for it.
It's a certain turbo lift shaft that
yes.
Somehow 86 floors on a 23-deck ship, and they're all out of order.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that. Like, how many decks are supposed to be on the ship? I had no idea. There's
only supposed to be 23, and I don't know where on the ship you can actually get to all 23 decks in one central shaft.
Maybe
there's no straight line on the Enterprise.
Can I?
That long.
You know what? Maybe this was a horizontal shaft, but because of the gravity inside the shaft, it makes it look vertical.
That is not how gravity in Star Trek works.
No, they shifted it.
They shifted in that area.
Yeah.
So they did like
Then they need to shift it back so they could just walk.
Well, that would have been helpful. Yeah,
it would have been actually. I don't know.
They'll get 86 decks.
This is hard sci-fi. What do you want?
I thought you were going to say, how does Spock leave and get boots and then come down? Not
that's
up,
an issue
but
too.
down.
I mean,
is
yes.
Stupid. Yeah. And I also love how you can tell there's just a matte painting at the top from the very moment they walk into that thing.
Let's go back to Tim for your second dislike.
Ooh, second dislike. Let's see. How disappointing was the trip through the galactic barrier?
Kind of.
Through the galactic barrier?
Through the galactic barrier to Shakari. Because we're told, no one's ever made it through the galactic barrier. It's all built up to be this big...
Especially...
Yeah. And it's like, all you do is just...
Especially when
it's like turbulence. You just fly a plane.
Yeah. Especially when you compare it to what happened in the episode where they went through the other galactic barrier and it nearly destroyed the ship and turned the guy into a cop.
And it's like, this one is like, there was no danger at all to the Enterprise.
Or anyone on board.
Relieved and appreciated there weren't these random 3D heads popping up as they were going through.
Did that happen in the episode or something?
In 4.
In Star Trek 4, yeah.
When they went through time.
Yeah. No, I remember that.
The episode, it was just a bunch of flashes and them shaking the ship because it's a 60s era television show with no budget.
Yeah.
Right. But and even that looked better than what we saw in 5.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I feel like it was underwhelming. I mean, it kind of looked cool but it didn't seem all that. Yeah, I guess it would have been cooler if there was something more to it, or there was an explanation of, it was all an illusion to keep people out of here, and it was for this reason, but we never get any of that.
I took it as like Cybok figured out a way, so he either programmed something.
Oh, he said, "Barrier, share your pain with me, so that you can let us through." Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, he talked to the ship. You're right.
Here's the thing, Paul.
Yeah.
If it were that, why couldn't God have left the barrier without the Starship?
Well, that's a spoiler for what they find out later. They didn't come to that logical conclusion at that point.
I'm just saying, how is Cybok better than this quote-unquote almighty god?
Right.
Yeah.
But, if they just had some, sparking consoles like they seem to do in every other Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly.
It certainly could have upped the drama, sure.
Indeed.
Hey, the Klingons didn't have trouble getting
Shields
through it
dropping, Captain.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I'll go to my next dislike because it's sort of related to that. And it's that I felt like there seemed to be 2 or 3 interesting stories in this film that were like the
main one is not it.
No, this I feel like they tried to merge these 2 or 3 stories together and they didn't do a service to any of them. It's just very sort of hollow. I feel like the whole idea of there's this guy on this planet that's somehow controlling the minds of people. I think that's an interesting story. Let's lean into that. Or there's this great barrier. There's this mystery. What's out there? That's a great story to lean into. There's a story of this god character that does seem very powerful and it's trying to escape, and maybe it actually gets into the ship and they have to figure out a way to get off the ship. And maybe these are all stories that Star Trek's already tackled in the series and whatnot, but I feel like any of those stories would have been interesting on their own to have fleshed out.
But Francisco, what if you take the mind controlling guy and have him take over the ship to get to the god thing in the center?
No, that wouldn't be good.
Well, you really saw it.
Having too many stories or too many hollow stories instead of one story that they really fleshed out, I felt like was my second dislike. Let's go to Paul next. What's something else you disliked?
Well, going back to things that didn't make logical sense, Uhura's fan dance. I'm not going to talk about the illogical. Like, where did the palm branches come from in the middle of the desert?
Yeah.
What took me out even more is that you have these 8. There were 8 of these guys that she was distracting, and they each had like a rifle. And then she has 2 guys with little pistols, and they're like, "We got you." And I'm like, blow them away, you 8 guys. What's going on? Like, it didn't make any sense to me.
Plot armor.
Yeah, exactly. I
saw the fans. It's like, I don't think that's Starfleet Special Operations issue.
Or maybe it is. Dun, dun, dun. I have nothing to say. I thought that was strange. I didn't really get it.
It goes in the convenience of like, and this goes against what Tim was saying earlier about, you like a broken ship. To me, that just screams plot convenience.
Yeah.
That means you can't use the transporters. You can't use, there's all these things like, they wrote that in. So the only way that this story works is if your ship doesn't.
It's like all the Metroid games. You lose all your equipment at the start of the game so you can restart with, have to get it all back. Yeah. Well, that leaves Drew with your last dislike before he gets to Tragic Makers, and what would that be?
Well, Paul stole mine.
Oh, man.
You mean you agree with me?
Here's the thing. The fan dance, A, is stupid to begin with. Secondly, do you know how old Uhura was during when this film was made?
Why is Granny dancing like that?
She was 57 years old.
Well, she had
a 57
very muscular legs for a 57-year-old woman.
These terrorists, for lack of a better term, on the planet of intergalactic peace are just fawning over. And I'm still going, really?
Yeah. How many women are there? There's the Catwoman. There's a few.
There's probably tons of girls on this planet. We just don't see them.
The Romulan who needs the better hairstylist.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just saying.
Oh, that didn't bother me.
It's unnecessary for the movie, and it does also makes no sense. You could have found a better way to distract these guys to steal their space horses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These aren't regular Earth horses. These are some kind of this is a Earth horse with a giant horn stuck on its head.
Yeah, and not that giant because they don't want to be a unicorn.
Exactly. Yeah, it can't be a unicorn.
It's probably a Klingon horse. Of course.
Yeah. Okay, with a K.
Yes.
Real quick, you had mentioned the Romulan with the crazy hairdo. Am I misremembering that the Romulans and the Vulcans are essentially of the same line?
They are the same. Race, but there's genetic drift because of like 2,000 or 3,000 years difference when they split off.
Okay, but aren't the Romulans also
the Romulans split off actually before the Vulcans got warp technology?
Yes.
Okay, but aren't the Romulans supposed to be in like super big gray shoulder padded jumpsuits?
That's TNG nonsense.
Oh, I think
that's TNG, where everything in the 80s had shoulder pads.
What she's dressed as in here is closer to how they dress female Romulans in the original series.
Okay, that's good.
It's closer. It's not exactly. It's closer.
All right.
I can see that kind of being like some kind of ambassadorial type outfit or something like that.
Yeah, it's not a Romulan uniform, but it's definitely something I could see them wearing.
Like saying all humans dress the same.
They do. All right, fine. But
I mean, we are all wearing T-shirts, so
good point. But they're different color T-shirts. All right. Well, T-shirts aside, let's strip all holds barred, or let's go all holds. Wait, no, yeah, let's strip all holds barred. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to come up with some
holds barred.
No holds barred. That's what thank you, Tim. That's what I'm going for. For our tragic makers. I'm
also a wrestling nerd, so it just kind of goes right with it.
Our tragic makers for Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. And I guess I'll start with mine because it's kind of, I get people would probably be like, whoa, but I just feel like they were making Sybok out to be a villain, which he ends up not really being a villain. And then the not God thing is the real villain, but he's only here for part of it. My track maker is there's no interesting villain in this film.
Sybok is a villain. He took over the planet that was supposed to be peace ruled. He took over the spaceship, the Starship. Those are all
okay. Those are villainous acts. That's fair.
All right.
I would consider Sybok to be the villain. It's just he has a very, very quick redemption arc at the very end when he realizes his mistake.
Yeah, but he wasn't very interesting of a villain. Like if I'm comparing him to Khan, to Christopher Lloyd's character in 3,
you compare anyone to Khan, you're gonna fail.
Yeah, you're gonna fail.
No, I mean if I compare Khan to Lex Luthor, I think Lex Luthor's better.
I don't know. General Chang does give Khan a run for his money.
Is that the Christopher Lloyd character?
No, that's Christopher Plummer's.
In 6, yes.
Yeah.
So I have to. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
I think Christopher Lloyd, Commander Crude in 3 was a better villain.
But I think the thing with Sybok is he's not supposed to be this villainous action like villain. He's supposed to be a sympathetic character.
Yeah.
It's not because he wants to be evil, it's just because he's wrong.
Right.
He believes something that isn't true.
Right.
He's trying to put off messianic vibes because he's supposed to be this messenger from God, is how he looks at himself.
Right.
So, unfortunately, because he doesn't go like full villain at the end of it, it kind of just falls flat.
Yeah.
Fair.
That's why I use the C.S. Lewis quote in my memory mind now.
So that's my main tragic maker, though, is that I wanted a more interesting villain, and he just wasn't good. I don't think even Sean Connery would have made him more interesting. I think it's just this. Right. This wasn't a very interesting villain overall.
Well, so then the not God is your villain, then.
Yeah, but he wasn't long. He would have been more interesting, but he wasn't in the movie for very long. So anyway, let's
the
go.
Rock Monster, then.
Let's go to Drew next. What was your tragic maker?
Well, kind of bouncing off of yours. First off, I have to correct you, Francisco, because you called it Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Really, this is Star Trek V, Captain Kirk Saves the Universe from Not God.
Hello, it's Star Trek V, not V.
Sorry.
It's the botched crossover.
The universe from Not God.
Yes.
But here's the thing. This is not the first time, and definitely not the last time, Star Trek ever had a quote-unquote false god as a character in an episode. This, however, has to be the worst false god Star Trek has ever had because, A, he's on screen for a grand total of 5 minutes. He's a head on a planet that for some reason can't leave.
Yeah, which they never explain.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, right.
I mean, when you look at the pantheon of Star Trek, quote-unquote, little g gods, he does not hold a candle to Gary Mitchell or
even Q, who's not a god.
Q, that was what I was going to. I was trying to
Trelane,
or Apollo for crying out loud. Apollo in that one episode is a whole lot better than this guy.
Apollo?
So, yeah, Apollo, as in the Greek god Apollo. He's in an episode.
Yeah, I like Trelane.
Wow,
yes, it's the episode Who Mourns
Trelane is a good one.
Yeah.
Which is speculated that Trelane was actually a member of the Q Continuum.
Yeah, I like that theory too. Yeah.
Member of the Q Continuum.
Fellow people that don't follow Star Trek, I'm right there with you. I'm just as confused.
What I'm getting at is all of these other characters, even though they were only in one episode in most cases, Q being the exception because he's like in like a quarter of
if he's not there yet, he will be
eventually. But the snake rock monster, not rock monster, but the snake rock cave from the Apple where the Kirk and crew basically caused Sin to enter this world was a lot better god than this guy is.
Mm-hmm. So you agree with Francisco, basically, that the villain wasn't
I consider
enough.
Cybok to be an interesting character that I wish we got more work with.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of hoping since Strange New Worlds did tease him during the first season, we might get more there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't really think of him as the villain. I think of the god as the villain. And this is just like this worst false god Star Trek has ever had.
Mm-hmm.
That's too bad.
Agree with that.
Well, what rang falsely for you, Tim, in Star Trek V?
Well, I have to say it wasn't. I'm going to actually take the sum of the whole.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This movie doesn't matter.
Oh,
nothing in this movie matters.
Close to mine as well. Interesting. Yeah.
Oh, in the arc of Star Trek movies,
in the entire arc of Star Trek, it does not matter.
You can remove it and nothing.
You missed nothing.
Right.
The rest of Star Trek's continuity has tried to stay so far away from this that it was actually a surprise when they did tease Cybok in that one episode. Strange.
Yeah, right. And because so.
They treat this movie like the plague.
Coming from Star Trek 4, is they show again this footage of the reveal of the Enterprise A, and they reuse that when they're going the shot in space dock where they're going into the ship, and of course Scotty's trying to fix something and whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's about the only tie-in they have with Star Trek 4. Star Trek 6 onward, you never hear anything else about it. Nothing ever happens.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's just. Wow, I mean, everything else you can build.
Maybe that's why they
references, and it's just like, no.
Maybe that's why they invited David Warner back for 6 to help remove the memory of 5. No, he was in 6, not 5.
Wow.
Yeah, so that way it's a shot. You're like, wait, is that the same guy? He was in 5 too. What?
Yeah.
Spock and Cybok's adopted human sister doesn't even talk about him. So
yeah,
in Discovery.
Did she even know about him?
This is a thing, Francisco.
But it's like, did she even know about him?
Had to have.
I don't know.
I don't like the character anyway, but we're going to continue.
Yes, and let's continue with Paul's Tragic Maker. Finishes out, Paul.
Yeah, like I was saying, mine's very close to Tim's as the overall. To me, this felt like a decent episode. It didn't feel like it had the gravitas of a movie.
Yeah.
Like when I go back and see the whole story as so I think that's where its greatest failure is in that for me. It just feels like another episode that, may be referenced, but probably not.
Yeah. Do you guys
enough in many of the countries outside the US, Star Trek V was a straight to VHS film.
Wow.
They didn't even release it in theaters because it did so poorly in the U.S.
I'm curious.
Or it was received so poorly, I should say, because it actually did very well, but it's only because it had the name Star Trek on it.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that much of the the lack in this movie had anything to do with William Shatner's directing. I feel like people will always say, "Oh, Shatner shouldn't have been directing; he should stay an actor and stuff." I'm just curious.
Because this feels like an episode, I think he did fine.
Yeah,
this is for me personally. Yeah. I don't give him any. From what I've seen and what I've read, there were a lot of things they wanted to do, but Paramount was like, no, we're not giving you more money. And I wonder if they had done that. Now, they were right not to make the main villain Satan.
Yeah. Yes, Satan.
But the fact that they and I'm not saying, I'm telling other people how to spend their money. I get that. But
there was.
Right. Considering how much money they spend on other things and everything, it's sad that they don't spend more. And unfortunately, the Star Trek movies often get this criticism. And it would be nice if they didn't. So
if they had spent more on it,
yeah. And I'm not saying that. I wasn't there on set and everyone that I've heard speak on this is they said. William Shatner was there morning to night. He was there making decisions. Now, they may have not always agreed with him. That's here or there. But from everything I've heard, he did a fine job as a director. But now, the fans, what I've heard from fans, they say the opposite. Like, well, he's in charge. It's his name, so it fails.
So here's the thing. I agree with you that as a director, I don't think that's the issue. As a writer, on the other hand,
right,
that's where it comes into play.
Oh, because he's part of the writer. Yeah,
right.
I have read 3 of his Star Trek novels, and they are not. They are. Let's just say I know why Judith and Garfield Reeves Stevens, who worked on Batman the Animated Series, helped him because they probably fixed a lot of problems.
Oh wow!
Have you read Tech War? Didn't he do Tech War?
I have not read Tech War.
Oh, I have read Tech War. That was
The Ashes of Eden, The Return, and Avenger, which
I have The Return. Yeah, that was.
So Tim,
well, let's just say his opinions on where the Borg came from are very interesting.
Okay.
I hadn't read that in a while, but I just...
What were you going to ask Tim?
I was going to ask Tim what a quick opinion on Tech War. Good, bad? Okay.
It was okay. Kind of. Okay. There were some beats I thought, okay, this works.
Well, that
kind of got to be repetitive after a while. It was just like, okay.
That answers the question, Francisco. It wasn't the directing; it was the writing. Because the best thing that apparently that William Shatner has ever written was Tech War. So, and that's just
case closed. All right.
Yeah.
So, I did like Shatner's interpretation of how holodecks worked, but that's neither here nor there.
Fair.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then
run off of tribbles.
That would be nice.
That's what happened to them all. They're just using them for energy.
Wow.
Yeah. Converting them into holodeck energy.
Yeah.
Well, now we're going to burp ourselves. That's a gross transition into our final rating for tonight.
Firing solution complete. Rating salvo armed and ready to fire on your mark.
All right, guys, it's time for the final rating, our moment of truth for Star Trek V. I was going to say the Undiscovered Country. The Final Frontier. Do we rate this film a classic? We'd recommend anyone go see this, whether or not they've seen it before. A nostalgic, it's worth your time to rewatch it. If you have seen it before, but if you've never seen it before, probably watch one of the other Star Trek movies. Or Definitely. Do we rate it a tragic? It's not worth anyone's time. If you've never seen it before, keep it that way. And if you have seen it before, don't sully any good memories you have of it with a rewatch. So let's begin with our guest. Tim, you had the highest possible rating of the predictions of nostalgic. Where did it end up for you?
As I was watching, I'm thinking, did I do the right rating on this? But you know what? For me personally, I still think if you can kind of look past some of these things, and especially if you don't really know any better, it can be a fun little ride. So,
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to stick with nostalgic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nostalgic for you. Drew, what was your rating? You had predicted tragic. Did it end up being that? Yes, it is. Okay. That's all I needed to know.
Hang on. Roy.
Name it, Roy.
This movie sits at an interesting spot in my overall movie rankings because I realized about 5 years ago that this movie is what I compare like all bad movies against. Like I always ask, is this movie better or worse than Star Trek V to determine whether it's good or bad?
Oh, wow. This is your litmus.
So I came to the determination that Star Trek V The Final Frontier is my brown standard.
Ew.
Gold standard.
Brown standard.
To me, in my mind, that means, well, it's not bad, it's just not good either. It's kind of in the middle. And if I translate that to even with this viewing, if I translate that to the Retro Rewind system, rating system, it is right there on the edge between tragic and nostalgic, and I do have to pick one of those.
So it's a classic.
I'm still going with tragic, but oh man, is it close?
Oh, wow.
There's still a lot to enjoy about this film. But if you get right down to brass tacks, this is the worst of the first 6 Star Trek films, and the second worst out of all 14 Star Trek films.
Ooh.
So I've got to rate it tragic.
Okay. Tragic for Drew. Sadness for Tim. Then we go out now to before we get to me and Paul's ratings, we go out to our reflux capacitors. You all get to vote on the movies we cover on the podcast and get to add to the final rating vote. And you collectively, when we average your votes together, you collectively voted on this movie. And when I, again, average those votes together, because in case you missed it when I said it the first time,
wait, this is collective?
Yes, it's collective.
Okay. This is the board rating. Okay.
Yes.
The board rating.
You guys rated it.
The audience has been assimilated.
You were at a tie, which essentially left it with a nostalgic rating from our reflux capacitors. So unless we end up with a tie here, then we might go into those ratings to add them one by one, but we'll see if that happens. Okay, so we have a tragic and 2 nostalgics. Paul, well, you had predicted tragic. Where did it end up for you?
So honestly, I hadn't decided what my final rating would be until just now. Wanted to hear everybody's opinion, and I agree with Tim's assessment. Like, you could take this out and it doesn't really matter in the Star Trek lore. But I'm going to go with nostalgic because I think if you enjoyed it before, you can enjoy it again. And these are classic characters, and it's good to see them in another adventure. So
Is it though?
Yeah, if you want something else, it's available. Now, I'm not saying if you enjoyed it. I'm not saying if you enjoyed it before, you will enjoy it again. I'm just saying there's a chance.
There's a chance.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Exactly. Yes. So for me, something that didn't come up in my dislikes because I had enough already, but I was constantly falling asleep through this movie. So for those who have listened to the show for a long time, know that's kind of the death knell for a movie.
You didn't know Chekhov was the captain in this movie. You were asleep.
Are you talking about the end where he's pretending?
Not even the end.
No, he's at the beginning when Kirk and them are infiltrating the camp. Chekhov is pretending to be the captain of the Enterprise.
No, that's right. That does come at the beginning.
Yeah, he's trying to.
I do kind of remember that now. Yes,
distraction for.
Okay. Regardless, this movie is tragic for me. I didn't have fun with it. It was just like a plod to get through. I'm glad I've seen it, so now I can say I've seen it, but it's not one I would ever see again or recommend anyone ever see again. I'd much rather recommend 2, 3, or 4 than this. So, with
Corset.
What was that?
Corsex.
Horsix?
Or six.
Or 6. Oh, yeah, 6. I keep forgetting. VI. Exactly.
You'd prefer IV, or VI?
Yes.
Sure, we'll go with that.
But just plain V? No.
I like that TV show. According to the Retro Rewind podcast, though, with 3 nostalgics and 2 tragics, we rate Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, a disputed nostalgic film. I guess we'd recommend watching this again if you've seen it before.
Garbage.
And that is a true tragedy.
That's a trick.
Sorry, folks.
Oh, man.
Wow. But now it's time to get back to our
intention to amuse you. These are serious charges.
Okay. But now it's time to get back to our own time. Good old 20XX.
Starting 20XX.
Calm Saturn 9. Awaiting incoming transmissions.
Feels good to be back, but we wouldn't have been able to travel back to 1989 to begin with if it weren't for our amazing reflux capacitors, namely Deborah Powers, Geek Devotions, Drew of the Cellcast. Oh, you're right here. Woohoo! Ashley Ruiz, Kenneth, Fabulous Lomax. You're here too. Woohoo! That's our Bobo, D. Tungsten, Daryl Hafner, Cool Deluxe, Dustin, He's a Big Deal Warford, Flux, Redeemed Otaku, in addition to 2 other awesome patrons as well. Thank you all so much for keeping the gigawatts coming. And if you want to help keep us flying and get bonus content for your generosity, head over to retrorewindpodcast.com/support to start.
This stream's at full power, and she's got plenty more to give. That's excellent news, Mr. Scott. How is this possible?
Well, Captain, logic would indicate the reason is because this stream is sponsored by PaulJPowers.com.
Say, Francisco, are there any, ways of the Federation who doesn't have money? Is there any ways like that to support the stream?
Yeah. Bring up your tricorder. And if you aren't driving a Starship, tap the share icon on that tricorder and send this episode to a friend saying, I know you like Star Trek V, and so I thought you might like this podcast about it.
Cool. And I'll bet they'll thank you for it.
And by drive, Francisco meant pilot.
Sure.
Okay, who won't be on the next Retro Rewind podcast for his insubordination?
True.
Well, actually, I want to thank Drew for being on here along with Tim for supporting their thoughts on Star Trek V, the not team up with the aliens or against the aliens of V, but Star Trek V, the Final Frontier. And since we like to go in alphabetical order, let's start with Drew, since Francisco wants you off the podcast for some reason.
It was a joke.
Where can people find you online? Is there anything cool you got going on that people should know about?
Well, you can find me over at the Cellcast podcast, where we review animated movies and television shows. We are currently working through on our animated series segment, Batman the Animated Series. So
nice.
Go hear us talk about, I think Robin's actually coming up in the next episode. His technical introduction episode, despite the fact we've had 5 episodes with Robin in it already.
Oh, it's an origin story.
Yeah, it's the actual origin story.
Nice.
But I don't know how this, I don't know if this is a flashback or not, but we'll see when we get there.
Uh-huh.
And then on the side, normally on Tuesday nights, when you should be watching, at least on one screen, the Retro Rewind podcast, or Francisco playing a Sega Saga game or whatever he's playing, you should also on the other screen be watching me play Kingdom Hearts.
Indeed.
Which I am recording as I do that, another podcast called The Cellcast Presents. Untangling Kingdom Hearts, where I am trying to untangle, analyze, review, and pretty much be entertained by Kingdom Hearts.
Very good, very good.
Is that the human heart where God apparently lives, according to Star Trek V, but not any Vulcan heart or Klingon heart, just the human heart? Okay.
I wondered about when Kirk said that, if he actually thought about the fact that you're talking to a half Vulcan, so does he only have half a god?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes it's a timeshare thing.
There are heartless, but it's a different.
Do you need help getting out of your timeshare?
Yeah.
in Kingdom Hearts, a heart is not technically what we would think of as a heart, so let's just move on and continue.
Okay, let's move on to Tim. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you online? Is there anything cool you got going on?
Well, I mean, right now, about the only place you can find me on Discord. I'll be at the Retro Rewind Podcast Discord.
Okay.
Under Fabulous Lomax, or I do have an X account that I am most at Fabulous Lomax. But I'm mostly a purveyor and not a creator of content on that platform.
Gotcha.
And I may or may not at some point in the future decide to go back to streaming on Twitch.
No, I was just about to ask that. Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of been up in the air. I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But it's still a possibility. So
You know what? I'm in the same boat.
I recently came back, so I get it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Drew. Thank you so much, Tim, for both guesting, and Tim for picking this movie for us to cover. And thank you so much to my awesome, not a space god, but a follower of God, friend Paul, and all you
Captain, please, not in front of.
And all you rewinders, new and old, for another fun voyage. We also want to thank Alutrick for enhancing our music. Find him at alutrick.bandcamp.com or youtube.com/@Alutrick. That's spelled ALLOOUTRICK, then the number 8266 for the YouTube. So thank you so much to him.
And speaking of websites, I am pauljpowers.com.
Whoa.
You can find me and all my social media links at pauljpowers.com.
Dun, dun, dun. You can find me on our Discord for show announcements or just to say hi. Get the link for that at retrorewindpodcast.com or firejoystudios.com/Discord.
This podcast is a proud member of Culture Box. Whether you enjoy geeky reviews, comedy, or original fiction, you can open up the Culture Box and find something excellent for your soul. Point your web browser to culturebox.media.
And as the not god of at the center of the universe just said, we are now part of the Culture Box Media Network. Find all the shows unpacking truth through story, comedy, and geekery at culturebox.media.
Thank you, EXO, and thank you for listening. We pray you are more joyful today than when you first hit play. But like a Pokemon, we gotta catch you all for Metal Slug 2/X, our next adventure on the Retro Rewind Podcast.
Retro Rewind mission complete. Proceed to base to await next mission.
Life is not a dream. Go to sleep.
Yes, Captain.